Welcome to Bay Area Psychology. From time to time, I receive topic requests from viewers, and tonight's focus on parenting children diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is one such topic. And it's no wonder. Parenting these lovable and yet frustrating children can be a mixed blessing, as reported by one mother. Share with us some of your experience with raising a child with attention deficit disorder.
Yes, I can. My son was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder when he was 6 years old. It took us a long process to come to that diagnosis. He was a very difficult child. He was very hard to address as far as getting him to do things. What I found was that attention deficit children can only do one thing at a time. So if you told a child to go pick up a jacket and put it in his room, he could only do one of those things, pick it up or go to his room.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder has been featured in the news lately. And with the increased media focus, there has been more controversy regarding diagnosis and treatment. For example, are we over-diagnosing children with ADHD and overlooking emotionally based behavioral problems? Are we over-medicating children to address the needs of overcrowded classrooms? Once a child has been diagnosed with ADD, what does that mean to parents on a daily basis? Tonight, we are fortunate to have Kathy McNamara, a local marriage and family counseling intern with rich personal and professional experience. And we have Leo Rubio, a parent who faces the parenting challenges on an ongoing basis. I'm delighted you both could join us. Thank you for being with me today. Now, Leo, I was wondering if when you were listening to our clip, if you might have been able to relate to anything that our mother shared with us.
I sure can. Raising a child with special needs is a constant challenge, one that is an inescapable part of your life. From the time you get up in the morning until that child is safely tucked into bed, it's something you constantly cope with.
Okay. So it's something that I think even in parenting children without special needs, there's a level of attention that's required, but it sounds like as a parent of a special needs child, the attention gets easily probably doubled.
Oh, easily.
Easily.
It requires a lot of patience, a lot of energy, and you're right, it is like parenting 2 or 3 children.
Okay.
Yeah.
All at one time?
All at one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Kathy, you probably meet lots of parents like Leo. You have a group for parents with children with special needs.
Yes, I offer parenting classes through the YWCA, and also in my practice I help parents to learn what to do with these kids now that they have them.
Okay. Well, one of the things I wanted to do as we begin is to take a look at exactly what we mean by attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Let's take a look at a couple of the symptoms to give us all the same framework. The first symptom would be inattention. Does not pay close attention to details, makes careless mistakes, difficulty sustaining attention to tasks, does not seem to listen, poor follow-through, difficulty organizing activities, often loses things, and perhaps easily distracted and forgetful. Now, I'm wondering as we look at that list if either one of you would like to comment on them and whether they seem familiar to you.
Yes, what's true is that most of these children either have all of these characteristics or just some of them. And what's so hard for parents to do is to know what to do. Now that I know this about my child and know that they have this label, what do I do? And that's where I feel that the schools have kind of fallen down in helping these parents learn specific parenting skills.
Okay. So maybe one of the reasons that there has been a greater focus has been greater awareness and greater diagnosis. Apparently we're getting more sophisticated, but what about the question of maybe sometimes over-diagnosing or putting into this label, as you referred to it, maybe on children where it may not be appropriate? Has that been your experience at all?
Yeah, it seems, I've been doing these classes for 14 years now, and it seems like in the past maybe 4 or 5, a lot more parents are coming in with children diagnosed with ADD. And I think that, yes, we have become more sophisticated, but I'm curious as to the fact that in Europe and England there are not that many children, if at all, diagnosed with ADD.
Okay.
And so I wonder about that.
That is something curious. I mean, I'm looking at, too, culturally, what could be happening for us that we would be so comfortable with this diagnosis. Either one of you may have any comments about that. I mean, I know we're very fast-paced. We don't have a lot of patience in general in our educational systems, as well as in life in general. And so I'm wondering if it's probably more convenient sometimes to put a label on a child and perhaps even consider medication rather than looking at some of the underlying factors that may be there.
Yes, and the bottom line is that even if a child is put on medication, that's not the cure-all. There's lots more that can be done besides that, but that's what tends to happen. Let's do a quick, easy fix, so make it easy for the parents and easier for the school.
For the
and there's
teacher.
so much more that has to be done.
Now, Leo, what was the process of your diagnosis of Bradley? Did he have to go through testing, or?
When he started school, it was obvious to teachers and also to us as parents that he wasn't functioning at his age level. And he learned to speak at a rather late age, and he was, his motor skills weren't very developed, and the gap began widening the older he became. And that's when we decided to have him tested, and it was found that he had neurological developmental delays, which he still has to live with.
Okay, as do you.
Yes.
I mean, what was that like for you as a parent to have your child diagnosed?
It was kind of a relief
Okay.
to finally have a name for it, to know what's going on. And then given that information, finding ways of redirecting him, trying different things, knowing that there are techniques out there that will help us in coping and in helping him gain the skills that he needed to survive.
So at some level, maybe it was a relief to find out that maybe it wasn't because you were parenting incorrectly, or I know that's one of the history of psychology has been, you know, blame the parents, particularly the mother. Dad usually gets off a little lighter. But there's a history of somehow it's mom's fault. So I would imagine that it does help to have something to be able to look at and to pin for yourself. Now, your experience of the parents who come into your group, are they all as comfortable as Leo with the diagnosis of their children?
They're all at different stages because there is that coping process stage where sometimes parents stay in denial for quite a while because they're not ready to hear that there is something that's neurologically going on with their child.
Okay.
And then there are those that say, yes, you know, my child is diagnosed and I now need to know what to do, so it runs the gambit.
Okay.
And that's true when people come into, you know, private practice too. It's that fear of, oh my gosh, is it really me? Am I really doing it wrong? And what else can I do?
That's right.
And what's true is that parenting a child with special needs, there are certain skills that didn't work with your other children that, you know, one has to learn what to do with these children. Yeah.
That's true, and you mentioned the fact that there are other children in the home.
Yes.
Now, do you have only one child, or
No,
are there more children in
two.
the home? You have two?
Yes.
Okay.
Bradley is 11 and Laura just turned 10.
Okay, so I imagine part of this process too was including his sister in this, in, you know, what to do and how to manage some of these behaviors.
Absolutely. And for many years, she felt the need to take care of him in school, out in the neighborhood with friends. She felt this need to protect him, which we're slowly getting her away from.
Right, and letting her maybe focus more back on her own needs.
Exactly.
Let's take a look at some more of the symptoms she may be coping with, as well as the rest of us. Hyperactivity and impulsivity. Fidgets and squirms, frequently leaves the room, runs or climbs excessively, difficulty playing quietly, on the go all the time, often talks excessively, blurts out answers to questions, can't wait their turn, and interrupts or intrudes on others. So there's that sort of, the presence of the child must be clearly felt throughout the house. That's when I've had parents come in, they talk about that it's sort of you're aware of what they're doing and their movements at all times.
And it's not just the child that has the problem, it's like it's a whole family system that has to deal with it. So it is the parents as well as the siblings, as well as the child. So bringing people in to work together is really powerful. Yeah.
Well, and you know, I work with a family where the youngest is most likely going to, that we're going to find that is the diagnosis for the youngest child. And the oldest child will often say things like he just wants to go hide in his room or somehow get away from the constant activity and movement. And I imagine that as parents there are times where you'd like to go hide in your room and not experience the activity, and yet that's not an option for you.
We recently returned from a trip, and we were at the airport, and I was observing him play, and all of those things on the list were evident. Poor spatial concepts or relationships where he's too close to people, or he's shouting, maybe in an area or a place where it's not appropriate, playing rough.
Boundaries, yeah.
Boundaries, yes, exactly. So it can be exhausting. On the airplane, the constant wanting to share the book he's reading with me, asking me questions, just constantly talking and demanding my attention. So.
Okay. And I'm sure that shows up in terms of the classroom too. You know, how do his peers react to your son?
Well, children aren't as forgiving as adults, and he tends to have a lot of problems at school. He has very few friends. Kids don't like it when other kids stand too close or bump them or answer out of turn. And these are things that he isn't even aware of as being inappropriate.
They just seem to happen. And I know, and we're going to need to take a break in a moment, but I'm sure that's part of your work with parents, is helping parents accept the fact that maybe their child might not have as many friends as they might if they didn't have these special challenges. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. When we return, we will hear some ways that we can help our children cope more effectively. Stay with us.
I'm reading like some dumb book that I have to for like language arts or whatever, I can't focus on it.